So here, we're going to go ahead and start the panel portion, and I'm going to ask just a few questions divided into two sections. The first being kind of a recap on some of the really important issues that we as an Asian American community need to identify and talk about. And then the second portion we'll move into is the more inspirational part, which is what are the solutions that these panelists can impart their wisdom based on their own horror stories and their experiences. So the first question I have is a very general question for you. What do you feel are the challenges that Asian Americans face today? So whether that be a lack of role models, representation, confidence, too much parental support, not enough parental support, what do you think is the one critical issue that is holding us back as a community?
I'll jump in. I alluded to this earlier, that there are just not enough leadership politically that represents our interests. Now, that's partly our fault. We're not participating, we're not running. If you don't run, you can't get into office. But I do think that if you look, except for the West Coast and maybe some on the East Coast, the large portion of the US are underrepresented by Asian leaders in politics. So that's, of course, what I do. So that's why I get on that. But I think we need to figure out a way to get our community engaged and take ownership of our own community by electing one of us here in this room.
And how about you? I know being in media is something that clearly is a solution towards this too.
I think about that a lot too in terms of my business and the media business, because it's all about representation. And I think one of the challenges we've had is while there have been sort of, performers getting on stage and we recognize who they are, there's not a beacon the way other, I think, communities have that have really sort of shepherded other Asian Americans to follow or to sort of guide. You look at things in the African American community, whether it's in music, where you look at someone like Jay-Z, who's a beacon, or you look at Oprah as someone, or Tyler Perry, or people that are sort of like, you say the names. And in the Latino community, I think you have people like Eva Longoria, who's both media savvy and incredibly political, and she speaks for a community of, Latinos and Latinas that is really strong. And I think we need to identify that inside our own community. And one of the challenges of that is that I think it was alluded to earlier, we're so diverse and we so want to sort of divide. I think Phil said it right, which is like, we should bring everybody under the tent versus trying to, oh, you're not Asian enough, or oh, you're Japanese and so I can't relate to you because I'm Vietnamese. We all have very similar experiences of marginalization and challenges about being model minorities. And I think if we can get over that sense of divisiveness, we can really sort of, be political, not just sort of in politics, but in life, because I think it is about being political.
Do you think part of that is that so many of us are coming from an immigrant population, so our values have not quite evolved to covering, as my mom calls it, the Maslow's hierarchy? The first need is the basics of food, water, shelter, and then as you kind of move up that pyramid, things that are a little bit more important like identity, community. Gauthami, what do you think?
I work in the Indian community. I do a lot of volunteer service in the Indian community. And a lot of the things that the kids express to me is the fear of their elders and disappointing their elders, because they're expected to follow this career choice, and everything else comes last. And that challenge is pretty clear. I mean, it was for me. They expected me to become this doctor, and then when I didn't, there was that huge amount of disappointment. So losing their trust, losing their approval is a huge challenge, and that I still see kids having to face. And I think the paradigm is slowly shifting, but I still think there's a huge barrier that we need to cross.
And for Ben and for Tiffany in particular, you didn't have that sense of pressure, and it has allowed you the freedom to pursue and be who you are. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think, the Asian stereotypes and sort of misnomers are pretty harsh, and not harsh in a negative way perceptively, but hard to live up to. We're not considered in stereotypically idiots or slackers, where you have to be the hardest working person in the room. You have to be the smartest person in the room. The professions that we live up to are not anything less than doctor. So I think when you look at those types of things, from my perspective, I didn't have to grow up with those, so I never struggled with an Asian identity. I was able to just have an identity like I guess other non-minorities would have. And I think that for me, that's interesting because that's something I've never had to deal with. And so I imagine, hypothetically, that plays into a lot of the efforts that you could be doing and working on your political career and other things of that nature versus just being yourself. And I think that those types of stereotypes are something that we'll always have to somewhat kind of either downplay or play up. And I think that constant battle is an interesting thing that is somewhat unique to being Asian.
And that kind of segues into my next question that, Tiffany, you can probably answer this too, is how much do you feel your Asian ethnicity has either defined, helped, or inhibited your success in your career and in your life?
Obviously, you heard my story. So when I was in LA, could not book an Asian job to save my life. And my agents would send me on these commercial auditions for the Asian businesswoman, the Asian mom. And I mean, some casting directors would literally laugh at me when I walked up to sign in. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, my agent sent me. So luckily, in the early 90s, mid 90s, the ethnically ambiguous label came out, which was great for me because I can play anything. So it was difficult for me in the beginning. I have never once booked an Asian role, ever. And then even in the world of the entertainment industry and casting and everything, because we are so diverse now, we are so multicultural. So thank goodness that happened. And I could book. Can play French. I can play. A friend of my husband thought I was Hispanic the other day because I was really spray tanned. So I think we are growing. I think we are broadening our horizons in the entertainment industry.
And Larry, I know you mentioned this, the stereotypes of how you're perceived when you go to a club. Can you talk a little bit more about your Filipino heritage and how much that has played? And now with someone who is a little bit more iconic, who has kind of paved the path for you, Bruno Mars, and fighting that you're not Bruno Mars.
Yeah, exactly. He has curly hair. It's never going to happen. I think, like listening, to everyone speak, I think it really is going to take. I think there are so many strong Asian American figures out there now. I think it's going to take one person to really take a stand and kind of really stand up for, I guess, the race, if you will, and really open the door. And I don't see that as of yet. But there's so many good things happening right now that I think, like the wave and what she was talking about, how parents are expecting their kids to be doctors and such, I think that's changing because eventually I'm going to be a parent, and I'm going to have kids, and I'm going to tell them how I see, the world. I mean, thankfully, we've had so much support from our parents, to be where we are today, but I think it's up to the people who have the mic now to open up the door and lead the way, and us as well to set the example and be here for people like yourselves and be willing to open and listen, because everyone kind of gets so caught up in their own little world and focused on their own dreams and making it and everything like that they forget that there are other people that are trying to do the same thing too, and helping, this person or that person. I think opening the doors for as many people as you can is only going to make it better, but it's going to take one person to really open the door, and I think it's going to happen.
Can I comment, Larry? I mean, can it be you? And I say this in a way that it's I think we don't support each other enough. I think that we should share his videos, buy his CDs, and talk about artists that inspire us. And I think Larry just talked about it. We have a lot of people that are sort of mid-managers or starting up, and but we don't have that beacon. I think the only way to do that is if collectively we identify people with the help of Phil's blog, also, and then really build them up, talk about them, share their stories, and say this is meaningful to us. And I think out of that, that's how we find that beacon. And I think that's really important for us to do, because if we don't do that, if we just sort of sit back, I think Hollywood sometimes doesn't count Asian Americans as a demographic because we don't show up. You know, we show up to mainstream stuff. We don't show up to sort of stuff that is specifically has an Asian lead or written by an Asian or is an Asian story. We go see, you know, other things, you know, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I think we also have to take our time and energy to sort of support those that are, you know, so that we can find that beacon.
Can I just say that, like, it is literally impossible for everybody to be a doctor or a lawyer. I mean, there's just not enough, and so, but and I understand the impulse for for parents to sort of push their kids into that direction. But for me, I've always really been about like our community is so, again, our community is so diverse and full of so many interests and talents and things that we can, and I'm not talking about entertainment careers, but like, you know, the problem is that we don't have enough. We just know that like doctor or lawyer, engineer, these are very successful careers that are very safe. And so I can't blame a new immigrant parent to push their kid into that direction, because that is safe, and that's fine if your kid is really passionate about medicine, law, or engineering. But you know, we just don't have enough examples, and we're not touting enough stories of the people who are really doing stuff in other avenues and other fields that are like, this is incredible, you know. And so that's what I've tried to devoted my blog in a lot of ways to doing. So just trying to show the diversity of the Asian American community, good and bad. Doing, you know, I'm really hung up on like Asian Americans in the arts, because I want to showcase and say like, look, these are careers where people are being successful, and at the very least, they're happy. They're pursuing what they love, and they love it, you know. And to create those models, and to say, and then the more successes that we have, the more we sort of tout within our community. Something like Juan said, like, you know, something as little as seeing Dustin Nguyen in 21 Jump Street, you know, that inspires dreams, and that's another example of like, oh, we can do that, you know. And now, as we see something like Fresh Off the Boat, that was like, to see that sort of blow up, and people all of a sudden being like, oh, this is possible. You can have Asians on TV and the world will not end. Like, people are like, you know, like, I think you're gonna see a wave of like a lot of Asian parents like push their kids into acting, you know, whether they like it or not, because like you have these kids on TV now. I think that modeling goes a long way, you know. Not model. I mean, like modeling, like modeling, like.
And to your
model.
to your point, I mean, the whole doctor, lawyer was one, engineering was another, the nail salons became another paradigm, then because Betty Nguyen became really big, journalism became another paradigm. So I think as we see more successful people pursuing different careers, and we'll all be a little bit more open-minded to the possibility of what we can become, and that's part and parcel of why Groundbreakers exists. Let's move on to the second part of our panel, which is the discussion by the theme that this conference is about this weekend, which is resilience. And I spoke a little bit to the panel about my definition of what I think it means, which is just being able to survive harsh circumstances and being able to come out on the other side. And to me, it's not just that you survived, it's how you survived and how you lived to tell the tale. And this is a little bit about you, which is, can you share a little bit of a horror story that created in you that resilience to help you be who you are today? And a little bit of maybe wisdom on, you never know who out there in the audience is going through the exact same thing. What can they learn from your horror story, and how can they possibly get out on the other side? Ben?
I have a lot of say. This could take a while.
The Ben Show.
So I started a company when I was 24 years old, and it wasn't like a t-shirt shop or something. Not that there's anything wrong. It was like I wanted to consult big companies and go in and talk to CMOs and executives on new products and marketing strategy. I had like a year and a half of experience after college, after undergrad, no money and no clients, but I had this vision and this dream of what this business could be. And apparently I'm going through puberty and losing my voice. That's slightly embarrassing.
13 going on 30.
Anyways, what I meant by that was I did about everything wrong that you possibly could because I didn't know any better. I didn't come from, you know, the first question I get asked when people hear about my business sort of pedigree is like, where'd you go to school? And I say UTA. And nowhere, I didn't go to this Harvard or NYU or anything like that. And then, what'd your parents do? And neither one of them were in business. Neither one of my parents are university graduates. So it's just the school of hard work. And so that resilience, you know, I remember times where we were literally probably without exaggeration, a week away from just giving up and shutting the doors, and then all of a sudden stuff started to trickle in. And then, nothing comes easy. And after about a year into starting the business, and right when we were about to catch steam, is when my dad got really, it got worse and passed away. And so I shut everything down for a couple of weeks, right in the middle of like really catching steam, to try to be there and help out and do all of that. And so there's never like an easy spot. When young professionals come to me and ask me all the time about business and business success, and it doesn't get any easier. The Biggie Smalls quote, "More money, more problems." It really is. The next step, it's mountains beyond mountains, beyond mountains, beyond mountains. And I think that resilience is the only way to continue, because just because you tackle one thing, there's something else right around the corner that you have to tackle again. So anybody that's in business, wanting to start a business, man, if I can do it, you can do it, I promise. And you can probably do it a lot easier and a lot less mistakes. Just ask me and I'll tell you some of the things not to do. But to me, that's resilience, is like believing and understanding that one problem is not, just conquering this is not going to make it that much better, or I'm finally going to make it once I do this. It's no, okay, I'm finally going to make it to the next thing that I have to overcome. So.
We have time for one more person to share their story of resilience.
I'm going to be brave because, Gal, I don't want to mess up your name. Go, sorry. This is one of the first times I've done this publicly, but when you're talking about resilience, I left Hollywood in 2002 because I had been raped at 16. I didn't tell a soul until I was 30. So I lived my 20s kind of a lie. I was running as far from home. I traveled the world. I was seeking validation through all the wrong things. Had this great career, private jets, Cristal champagne. And I left LA because I knew that the time had come. The soul searching needed to start. Being on the cover of magazines, being on TV every week and getting the big paycheck was not fulfilling at all. I left LA in 2002, and my best friend is right here. Leanne, which you probably all know, she MCs Fashion for Passion every year. She knew what I was going through. I sat in my stuff. I sat in my hot mess here in LA, here in Dallas, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had to start telling my story. I had to start facing what had happened to me so that I could bounce back. It's about bouncing back, getting back up every single time, no matter what knocks you down. And I had been carrying this secret for so long, so I appreciate you, Gal, for giving me the courage to be able to talk about healing, and through my healing and helping others, it really does propel your healing. So if you're going through anything like that today, getting out there and helping someone else really will speed up your healing process. But, because of Leanne's understanding, unconditional love, I actually went back to LA about 8 months later with a whole new attitude, a whole new vision. I no longer had to carry this secret, this poison that was, just eating away at me. And then I was able to realize that my calling was to use all this pain. I call it, I was running from my past, and I ran smack into my purpose. So I thank you, Gal, for sharing that. So that gave me the courage to do that today. And I just encourage all of you that, if you're falling down, if you're down today, just get back up. No matter what has been done to you, what has been said to you, just keep on going.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like sometimes there are like natural born leaders, and then there's those that become leaders by happenstance, and then there are those that become leaders by experience and nurture. And oftentimes this circumstance of how we're raised, what we go through, unwittingly creates a strength in us because of the things that we've had to go through. And I don't know that each and every one of us, when we were 5, set out to be leaders and on this panel today, but it was the culmination of those experiences that every single one of them has gone through, and the ability to bounce back and take on that positive attitude and just have that fire in your belly to keep going that makes them, to me, and against the great Groundbreakers. So thank you. So to my favorite part of the panel, I often close, if you've watched Inside the Actor Studio, who's ever watched Inside the Actor Studio? He likes to close by asking some really fun questions to the panel in a lightning thunder, I always get them mixed up, lightning and thunder round fashion. And I'm going to ask some quick questions so that you, the audience, can get to know them really well in a very short nugget. So get your microphones ready. First question. What's your favorite word? Kwan?
Yes. Yes. Actually, can I add something? I love the theory of improv. Has anyone ever done improv? Great, right? It's always about yes and. It's adding to it. Not just yes, but yes and. Don't say the N-word. Not that N-word. I mean, as a new parent, I'm so deathly afraid of the no word. It's going to invade my life soon. But I really don't believe in no. I think it's about yes and.
Yeah. Holla! Right now, that is my favorite word because so many great things are happening, and it's like my exclamation point.
Twerk.
We might have to see a little of that action later.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Karen?
My favorite word's give.
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 I use the word a lot because
word.
it's like the answer
Word?
to everything. Hey
Okay.
man, you want to go to the movies? Word. Hey man, that really sucked. Word.
Go.
My favorite word is huh, because every time my parents ask me, when are you going to get married, I say, huh?
It's 2 words. Let's eat.
What's your least favorite word?
No.
Kwan, start.
Oh, I mean, no, I guess, no.
Hate. I use it every once in a while, and when it slides out of my mouth, I try to retract it. I don't like the word hate.
YOLO.
YOLO. Yeah.
Well, since Kwan took my word, no.
You can have
Can't.
it too.
I don't like the word can't.
Can't.
I hate it when my kids say it. I hate it when other people say it on my team. There's always a way. It's not can't.
Failure, I think it's too overly celebrated. I think it gives people a way out too much right now. You know, I think that we talk about this fail fast movement in business and stuff, but it's not really. It's prepare, focus, and I think we define failure as too broad. I think that not as many things are failures as we believe them to be.
Whatever.
Huh and whatever. Got it.
It's a good one. Wish I thought of that. It's bullshit, and not so much the word itself, but when people sling it. I don't. Yeah. Because I like to say it all the time, actually, but I don't
Whatever.
Like to, yeah.
Word.
Okay, Kwan, starting back at you. What turns you on?
Oh. What turns me on? I'm sorry, what? I know you're recording, yes. People's passion.
You stole mine. I love to see people go for their dreams, no matter how small, big, grandiose, whatever. Like if you're just pushing every day towards your dreams, it turns me on.
I'm going to say the same thing. Anyone with like a drive and a passion like that really turns me on.
That's why you have an amazing girlfriend.
That's why. No, really, it's like one of the main reasons why it's a sexy thing. So
He didn't
yeah.
pay me to say that.
Mine is kindness. I think this world, we're always surrounded by negativity and bad media, not you guys, but just negative stories. And I love hearing and seeing stories about kindness. It lifts me up, makes me smile. It's one of the things that really attracted me to my husband, who is sitting in the room today, because he's so kind. He takes the time to talk to every single person, no matter who it is. He will talk to you soon if you just sit there long enough. I'm serious. But if we had more kindness in the world, we would all be so much better. We really would. Instead of reading about killings and all, and I know that's a reality, but if we could balance it out, we would be such happier people.
Tacos.
Toddlers
I
turn
miss
you on?
Tex-Mex.
Did you say toddlers
Yes,
turn you
food.
on?
I love food. No.
Oh.
No,
Okay.
no, sense of humor. Like if you can make me laugh, if you like that like deep gut laugh, you know, where everybody in the restaurant turns and looks at you and you're like, everyone's, why are they laughing so hard? That's extremely attractive.
He is an eligible bachelor, ladies, so if you can make this one laugh.
Are we talking physical attributes? Just want to make sure I don't need to put out my bio data. I would have to say selflessness. Do everything from your heart and don't expect anything back. Do it because you want to do it.
It's so many things, but I'll narrow it down to wit.
Now the next question is clearly the obvious, the opposite, what turns you off? You grab the mic.
Sorry. You know, it was said before, it's not original, but hate turns me off. I don't like people who haters.
Check mine again. Lack of integrity. Lack of integrity, pure and simple.
I'm gonna say the same thing. I hate haters.
What do I hate? I hate mean people. I hate mean people. We should all help each other. We would be better as a society if we were all kind and not mean to each other. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to each other.
Flakiness. We live in this society of like we're always working for the next thing, and we live in this social media slot machine of what's next in the news feed, and just the amount of flakiness in the professional world, but really in the personal world, it's the biggest turnoff in the world. Flakiness.
I would have to say a mindless mind because the mind is a flow of thoughts and everything starts in the mind.
I gotta echo the haters part, particularly because I work on the internet, I do my business on the internet. My livelihood is posted on the internet, and there's just too much hate on the internet.
I also hate anonymous posts. I
Yeah.
hate anonymous, because you know what? If you're gonna hate something, actually have the balls to sort of stand behind it and call yourself out. It's just sort of the anonymous stuff drives me crazy.
Since we're at the NAP convention, I'm going to cut this question. You can answer that in the round robins, which is what is your favorite curse word? Since we're being recorded, I won't ask you that.
I already cursed, I'm sorry.
I'm going to skip ahead. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
My other weird passion is I'm a huge horse racing fan. So, jockey?
Okay, we're so much alike. It's involved with racing. I should have been Danica Patrick. I wanted to be the first female race car driver. My dad taught me how to drive in a Corvette, and I'm a speed demon.
Fashion designer.
I would love to take what I like to do, which is to shop, and make that, that would be fun for me. I would love to be able to be a personal shopper, but I'm not sure you really make a lot of money doing it, so.
Say actor, like action star. Like, it seems so fun.
Bollywood choreographer.
I love what I do, and I can't see myself doing anything. And all the other stuff that I want to do, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it someday. So I don't have to.
So my last question in this series, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
If heaven exists, what would I like God to say when I arrive at the pearly gates? Your life had purpose.
You done good, girl.
Hello.
Welcome.
It's like come inside, hopefully.
Take off your shoes.
I'm glad you're here.
Everybody you love is waiting for you inside.